Welcome back. Got some more shallograms. We're going to start with this one. This odd shape here drew my attention, which I've seen in other places like this. Like something, it reminds me of this. In this case, I didn't know what to make of it. But in this case, it's interesting because it has more defined features here. So I pulled up this one, It shows it's very much like this. It's almost like within here is a spiral that we're seeing out here for some reason. It looks like it comes in this way and then goes out of some boundary at the center on this side. Okay. It's thin. It's much thinner than it looks in this picture. It looks like it could be thicker. It's pretty thin, which maybe is part of what's happening here. It's spiraling, but then there's just not enough material, so it's etching along the surface of this portion of the spiral, whereas over here it's not brought enough material to expose the boundary, maybe. So it just created something like that. I don't know. Like this way, this way, this way, this way. We can even maybe in here somewhat see the interior spiral going in here, like that. That way, that way, that way, that way. Some kind of... Looks like the outer edge of this is just protruding through this region, which is something that I really feel like I should work through more completely. Showing this concept that it basically goes through a side like this, down through it, and then out into a basin where it fills it. That's kind of the bottom of the rock, that it then fills it so much so that it creates a current back up to the top around the eddy. But then as the eddy forms, it begins to penetrate through the boundary and like narrow the connection until it's really just like a thread, single threaded from this portion to a center portion, and other, like a whole variety of things going on. Lots of current flows here. I noticed there's lines going like this way, here, this way. This is flowing here to this, here to this. Thinking maybe there's some kind of equator current more related to the spiral that is interacting and making a current going this, like around the base of the rock that goes up, run into resistance and just create turbulence behind the cross current. This one reminded me of... I took this one because it was so similar to one I talked about the last episode. Somewhere. Or two ago. This one. Couple episodes ago, where this one has a exterior ribs, like a shallogram spiral along the outer side, as well as a inner ribs here, like the spiral has an intersection, so it has that going on, and within it has a spiral, which I think created these ribs on it. But I took this one because it reminded me of that, mostly. And it had a like seashell shape here. Although it looks kind of ammonite shaped, it's just not formed. More like it's a spiral. Goes out there. Then I took a picture of this one because it was very much like those ones. I don't think I have it. I didn't think I had this one saved. I couldn't find it. So this is another of a chunk, just a chunk of the spiral outward that's like cleaved well, but also was shaped by currents like in the process, so that it has current etchings on it. I seem to be spiraling here, like creating an ammonite spiral into it at like a pole, around, generally across here, going through like a channel here that goes that way and that way. And then around, caught inside of like a pressure of the surroundings. This one looks more like it just flowed down, flowed in a way that it etched this whole region, fanned out. Maybe a flow coming atop it and then down this way that fans out. Another side of it, another side of it, another side of it, different rock. This is kind of like that cross section here. Again, it's very much another one of those. We can see the ridges going around, and then this is kind of the end of it, of the loop. It's got this thing here, which kind of, it looks like it's going through, like a channel, a slit that's going through, and then it starts to fan out here, like it goes through over there, goes through to here, and beyond probably, and fans out. Probably while it was still more stable as a unit, as part of a larger structure of a eddy forming that then broke off this chunk and just like it became its own unit that was shaped by its shapes, which then led to surface flows in the way we see it, but it like where the structure within the rock was largely formed prior while as part of a larger system. This one, if we notice, goes around here, and then it goes kind of this way, goes around here. Also, it has a inner gold, outer less gold material color. Not gold, but the color is. Sorry if I call it gold, and it's not. Eddy, maybe? Maybe it went this way and ended up going up and falling in a way that it produced an eddy that then caused resistance to current going like towards it, and that led to this current going more this way. And it went up this way, dividing there. Maybe something of that nature. Just the way it goes over there is very strange to me. It looks too anomalous. Like, this is still kind of this way. At most, like that way. This doesn't really make sense from a shallogram standpoint. And its subtleness and just the way it kind of bends over here in a fossilization shell process. Notice the connection from the bulk to this top here. This top above the side. Bulk top connected through here, where here the ammonite shape is starting to cut out the boundary, so there's not a connection from this material to this material. It's more so an overwhelming current flowing out of the stone's interior along these boundaries, controlling this region's shape more and preventing connection. So it's like seizing the process by cutting off the connection between the poles. Another angle. This one's really interesting. So we've got this gold stuff going out this way, but then around this opening we've got this shape and then some shapes going off down this way. This going over here from the base of this gold material, almost like it's ramping the resistance, using it as a pivot point to go up that way instead of going that way. Also going this way, looks like. To there. Going that way. Okay. Relatively circular structure there with like a wave in front of it. That's pretty interesting, with a channel going through that way and then ballooning. So it's almost like there's a current going around it of the two materials that end up differentiating. And then within like a chamber that forms at the outer boundary, it provides a space for a current to flow within and then spread out like that. Interesting, there's a little one over here, like counter to the big one. I don't know. We can kind of see that line going towards something over there and possibly something that way. So we see a really straight line going across here right to there. Which I believe is here, going across, somewhere across here, maybe here, or maybe there, to here, down this way. It's like it joins a current flow that's going around here. And down and in. But pushes a current across that way, maybe? Maybe this current gets bent across here. Very strange. It's like rippled this way. Not in line with this. Like it folded. Like it was forming and then it just kind of folded inward. But it was malleable enough that it didn't just like fracture. It was just like a stretching of the material and creating this fold back here. Seemingly related to some current that interacted with the fold. maybe caught it like right here and pulled it, slid out like a material by hooking onto the edge there, and like snapped this from this in essence, but then it pulled it out. So it has this boundary as part of the interactions of how this current flow that just kind of etched into this surface grabbed on there. Possibly. So we got that side with that thing. And then we got this side also with this across here to around where this boundary is. This line going across here. This one going to about that point. So I'm not sure what exactly to make of that. Maybe like a generally halfway between them. Like the etching starts near this more so than over here. I don't know. Like a current's going this way. Current's going this way, this is going this way, running into resistance, pushing this boundary over to here, but then interacting and going this way. And interacting with this current so that it then like swirls and goes up and down in a more turbulent way. That etches into the rock. Then it gets past this like main channel, like, because essentially there's current across the whole width. Some going, wrapping around, but some, in this instance, because of how flat it is, I guess, maybe going, especially in those channels, and in there, and maybe there, right there. Like, the rock itself has some more nuance to the lines on it, like even over that way, but that looks related to this. So, like, back to the front, that's related to here, this point. Like right to the boundary. So if there's a current that's coming out of this boundary, going up this way, going around the rock this way, it is then going over here to this point and etching around, like fanning out maybe, and etching, making that not as lifted as this region, removing material. And then from here, a similar thing. Maybe from here, like an outlet occurs there. It even looks like there might be little chakras. Where it then comes out there. As well as over here. Some of it maybe goes in different channels. So like right there. That one is where? Possibly tied to just the chakra, which does have these little etchings around the poles. This is very interestingly shaped. Okay, this one, so cool. It has like a outer current going this way, and then they interact here, and then it goes out that way, and another current going this way. It shows that like the two currents interacting, where sometimes they go out of phase, so they're not atop one another, and not, sometimes they're atop one another but out of phase, and that can create, like, if they're perfectly out of phase, create openings and then teeth where they come back together and then opening. If they're somewhat out of phase, it can create like a wave like this. But in this case, they're just like physically not even in the same channel, because they're out of phase in a different like dimension of their phasing. Like they have one wavelength, but they also have another wavelength that the structure's doing around the stone. So they're coming in and out of phase in terms of that way, like their wavelengths are colliding, coming back together here, and then spanning out. Possibly going this way. Possibly going this way, actually. Coming in here and then going up into here. And then going around, wrapping around. Because it wraps all the way around. So yeah, that's probably what's going on, is a current just hitting this rock at that point right here. It's not getting in, really. It's just creating a dimple. There's no pictures to tell what exactly is going on in that hole. It doesn't look like it's getting substantially in. It might be shaping inside of the rock a little bit, but it looks like it's like getting in and then creating enough of an eddy there that it then shoots off a secondary current that goes this way to relieve pressure, and then it swirls around the rock, etching around the rock, possibly going in both directions, going this way and going this way, creating the two channels. Although maybe not, but I'm thinking maybe. Thinking maybe like anything from that's going over here spills around this way. Past that point, it's going to go this way from this current influencing, and then over here it's going to go this way, and they just go around each other. They run into each other, creating turbulence, and then end up finding an equilibrium where they go around each other, and then that ends up being the path that the current continues to follow, but then they etch different paths across time. That's the stable equilibrium of the currents, because this isn't just like boop, it's just like continuous. On, on. And the rock is just like stuck in those circumstances because there's many systems around it. There's a lot of pressure holding things together. There's a lot of pressure moving the water. A lot of energy in the water that's etching into the rock. A lot of materials like this itself that's fueling like this rock to stay alive and not just break apart from being etched apart. A lot of pressure holding the rock together. Just the circumstances that like a temporary world comes into existence that has currents wrapping around it like a planet, where they can go separate directions at a boundary and are. Here's another side of it. Yeah, another side of it. Looks like one of the currents goes up here. We can see little notches that way, that way, that way. Strongly suggestive there's a current coming this way. That maybe some of this goes under along the very boundary here and makes it real smooth. And then gets across in a way so that some of the current going from this side goes this way, but it gets divided, so some of it goes this way. Or maybe this current comes in, goes underneath it in order for this one to not, because there's no eddy here. Like if it were to be one current splitting by another current, the other current's like doing this, so there should be some interaction here that's greater than what's visible, although maybe it's related to this, I don't know. Like within the rock though, like feeding into the rock here and draining through this point that's maybe perpendicular or parallel with the ground, the base of the rock, perpendicular to like somewhere, I don't know. Another side of the rock, it's dividing here, etching in here, like a current's coming in and hitting this current, which then causes it to divide, as well as like holds this current up against the rock, I guess. Yeah, it looks like it comes this way and then starts to bend by this current as we get over here. Maybe even bends completely. Like gets behind this mound and is able to come back this way, but then it's in the current again. And just does something like this that feeds down through the rock. Where are we looking at there? There. Here's that split. Okay, there's that split. Here's that split here. And then there's that. So maybe it splits this way, but it also splits that way. Or even goes this way. This current goes around and splits up there. Rounds up this way, bends. Ends up running into that and bending back, but bends. Bends, because this is not alone, there's more currents coming across that then bend it back. That would mean there's currents like running into this side, kind of using this as a pivot point by the currents present here. Even looks like there's a swirl in there, like current coming in and getting trapped and swirling, but having just filling the pressure, maybe fueling into this too. This one has really cool those features again, like this one, like the first one we looked at, I think. Kind of see them over here coming into view. Just smooth the surface, just like polished by this current going across it. It formed and then it got polished back. So now we can see a cross section into the ammonite and see how it's separated materials, really. The outer portion had this like gold coloration, but then the further in, the more separated from the black shale, and it becomes this white, I guess like quartz. Let's see. Opposite side is this smooth face with lines. These are possibly in line with this. And in line with these. Oh shit, dude. Could it just be the current comes out this way and then rolls around the top? As soon as it gets in another current, it goes around the top, but it interacts with the top current, producing these little striations. In this instance, at least, I don't think they're... Some of them that don't even have an ammonite shape on the outside still have that going on. It looks like it consumed all of the material to a point where it like went down the drain and separated, and just essentially water was flowing through it. That was becoming more and more pure water and transporting the subtler particles out to a further radius, which is these, and then these, and then these, making these at the center still, and then the gold color at the middle, and the black color at the boundary, the outer edge shaping the stone itself. Okay, let's see. This one's cool. See, we can see that little connection between the base and the top is just this little connection point. It probably spirals in. Not sure what's going on in there. Just wondering if there's like a chakra opening happening. I don't know if we can see really, but we can see it goes up that way. It goes, if we start over here, go around, it wraps all the way around here and goes up and wraps around. Around, and then comes up here and wraps around like that. Around, runs into the boundary of the ammonite structure and wraps up its boundary, probably holding its boundary like the furthest the front of the structure progresses is a function of where the spiraling upward current is holding the progression. And if it can't hold it, it grows further and cuts off the connection point. And then it no longer has a fuel, so it starts to become more and more like this, where it has a base, it has a material still down here, but it doesn't have any up here to fuel in the process to then cause like change in the system beyond just stripping materials out and spreading them out. So it looks like something like that's happening, where it holds this boundary and in so doing provides a channel to bring the material up to the pole so that it can then fuel down through, drain in, and cycle into this ammonite structure. Which maybe is entirely fueled. I really think it's a cycle, though. Like, it actually exits as well, and then goes back through, comes back, and over time leads to an end result where it can't do that anymore, or it stops somewhere in the middle. Anywhere in the middle, and with lots of nuance. Notice here's this, and then down here is like another ammonite that's more like this way, I believe. Let's see. You can kind of see it. What's going on with this? Oh, this is a different one. Okay, let's move on from this one. Let's go to this one. I thought that was the same one. Okay, this one. Again, same thing though, where it has this like material wrapping around, going to a pole, and then draining through. And then wrapping around and cycling. But this one is formed on the edge of another one, which reminds me of the ever common video that I keep coming across in different ways, where there's a spiral and another spiral going in opposite directions on the boundaries of one another. So there's a spiral here and a spiral here. In this case, it's perhaps like not sideways, but like this, which like lots of these are stacked atop one another like this. But sometimes, like this, for instance here, they're not stacked. They're like growing off of one another's boundary as one unit. This one proves that these are not fossils because they form literally together. Stacked, but stacked. I think that's the same one. Somewhere in here, I have one that's stacked sideways. This one really shows what I'm talking about. If we start, I must have the base. Did I not take a picture of the base? Basically, the bottom is just like this, all the way around, and then it then cycles up over here and down through the top, where it then feeds in here to a chakra that then grew this ammonite shape outward until it cut off enough of the boundary and or just pressures relieved so that it could stop the process, because it's pretty much still going, although interestingly it like pushed it outward, like it was more like this maybe, and just got shoved so that it got like a V-shaped. I feel like that might be even why it's so dense here. It's getting pushed into this resistance, stretching it out while the current's flowing around through the rock, stretching the current out pretty much, leading to compaction of material here more so, and maybe more water over here, like a separation of materials, water, and more dense material that helped like separate it out like this, where it's even water like flowing outside of the rock maybe as part of this shape. Okay. But that one kind of reminds me of this. Okay. There's that edge. Let's see. This is just incredible because it looks like there's a little chakra system there with two eddies. I can't tell from the picture for sure. None of the pictures were like clear in that regard. Like, I mean, it's pretty clear, but it's not so clear as to be able to tell what's happening. Like if it is really two chakras, but there's definitely a chakra here and another chakra, I guess something like there, opposite to this, which has this spiral off it and then all of this off of it. It's kind of pointing at a midpoint in this circle. I mean, that happens in shallograms a lot, like a midpoint relating to other chakras nearby. I don't want to say it's two chakras, but it could be. That would be proof. If something like that, like two chakras ever formed naturally inside of one of these structures, like doing things like this where it gets so intense that a little eddy forms over here, like in the material itself, like that doesn't have a fossilization explanation when one fossil is two fossils. I haven't seen them on that scale, but this might be happening though. There's even a little lobe there. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't even know if this is still available. These are all from Rudraksh Guru, by the way. There's another side of that. So there's the opening there. I guess it might be spiraling this way. So like this way. Which is somewhat in line with this one. Hard to say. Another side of it. Oh yeah, that's right. That's the bottom side of this. So now we're gonna see into this one pretty good because it broke. It like broke. That's right. So we can kind of see into it somewhat. Yeah. Okay. I guess I don't have any more pictures. Seeing like this side while looking at this face. It looks like this is the back side, first of all. Like it's this side. Which I don't have any pictures of, except for there. So except for there. So we're seeing the back side. We're seeing a current that goes, or crack that goes from the back side. Let's see where that goes from. Maybe here, down here, or from here, down. Yeah, from there, from like right where the bulge ends. So the top current goes that way. The bottom current, I guess, goes over here, points over here to here. It points to this location where this other shallogram was forming, or ammonite shape was forming. This other eddy was forming. So this like chunk right here is energetically related to all of this spiraling around and then going down, around, and then down. Possibly even back up this way. But down here, just wondering if like across here to go back across like that. And then go up here and interact again with itself. I don't know. This looks almost like a nucleus with an outer ring and then an outer shell. An inner ring, outer ring. Maybe another ring as well. It's just with rings. Just thinking like some current is flowing down this channel that then forms like a shell to it. Maybe. Like a shale current that's darker that then forms a shell that continues to flow, but then that shell like radiates through to boundaries and like fills it with that material, some deform, like so that it has a source as it accumulates as a shell here. It like can feed other shells. This one I thought was interesting because it has this crack across it, and then it has these kind of shell-like, but also ammonite-like. Like, they're very odd, abnormal. They don't really make sense because of their abnormalities. In a lot of instances, that's how shellograms are, where they just have abnormalities. Like, what's up with this? What is up with that? And like this looks like a seashell, but like why is it just happens to be next to some other feature here that's like perfectly looking like part of a shallogram that has this really interesting indentation that currents do, like with enough energy. Another side of it, so like down here it's got some kind of possibly current going through within it. Another one with like a seashell thing going on in the midst of a bunch of other things. This one radiates out real interesting. Possibly connects over here to something going on here. I don't know what to make of this one. Let's see. That looks like little drill points. Maybe that is too. Those two look like maybe they are. Where a current indented. Other sides of it. The current just went through the rock in a ammonite shape with this straight edge here. And we can even see, like, therefore, because there's a straight edge here, that means the current's going this way. And like any current, it's going to want to, like, while it's rotating, it's going to want to go straight. So we can see, like, a little divot there, little spots that it got stuck up on, like here, 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 here maybe, and then it comes around and gets really stuck there, and maybe then goes down under the current going this way, in like an ammonite shape, like, we haven't gotten to it yet. But like this. It goes down and around it. Down and around to then go to a lower level where it does a similar thing and just begins to spiral down into this channel, etching literally, like, it's not going straight down, it's literally spiraling, like, layer by layer, etching straight lines, like, this way, around the edge, but creating channels that it then goes through so it doesn't fully etch at all, and then it, I guess, reached enough of a distance in where it just stopped doing that and was, like, perfectly at a pole, so it didn't like waver. It just went through the center and didn't create like an ammonite shape, except for this way. Kind of reflective of this draining process, but maybe that tends to happen more where it creates like an ammonite when there's a imbalance. Like this rock does look pretty circular or even octagonal. especially on this side, octagonal, more rounded down here. It looks like a like one of those chemistry atoms play sets. Deep. There's that straight edge. It's lower in the rock, at least from this angle. It looks pretty like this is as tall as the rock can be, maybe. Lots of little cool features. So maybe it wasn't just getting stuck. It was just spraying out in different channels. Just like psst. Little geysers everywhere that it then etched the rock in these little spots, as well as bigger spots, and then even bigger spots. Bigger spots. But largely with the surface current holding the rock together, while a rock or a current went down into a pole that then was ejected from the interior by just spraying everywhere. Like the perfect resistance where it just sprayed everywhere, like a hose spraying against the ground where it just splatters everywhere. This one, let's just move on. I'm not sure what exactly to think about this one. I just went right by it, pretty much. Worth noting. Okay. This one was exciting immediately because we can see the current flows etching like around the chakra and chakra, the shapes going down, continue over here around here, but they also continue down here and go like sloping down the rock. That's not what fossils do. They don't follow the contours of the rock where they physically bend by the end rock that the fossil shell was within. It is literally following a surface current that this current is pushing down on, but because it's getting so far away from the center of the outflows of pressure, it's actually bending rather than taking very straight trajectories, and it bends in an abnormal way because usually it bends like at boundaries like this, giving a repeated structure, but in this case it's bending down here and then comes out all the way over here, even maybe even goes up. I was thinking it comes also out here. Possibly comes out here, but also goes up here, and like these two channels interact and create this. I don't know. But it seems like it's going out this way. Just bursting at its seams, found a channel under here. It could have etched this whole thing off, but it is still like connected. Quite incredible there. That to me is another proof that shallograms are not fossils. And I just noticed this straight line here, if we go across this way, and the straight line here across this way, it's kind of got a shallogram opening shape, like one of these. Like going out this way, almost like chakras are there that were relatively forming and beginning to etch the shape here, but it didn't fully. So it just created like a connection from this system to another system that was forming. The currents were flowing in adjacent eddies. It just didn't etch the rock here completely because it was just too close to the boundary. It couldn't form in the presence of this system within the rock, maybe. So it just formed like a lobe in the space it had, but that was all that happened. It couldn't like counter it with another to complete the circle and really etch out maybe Like it was just trying from one side, but then it just ran into so much pressure that it just got held up and sealed the holes with the current and ended up not getting out because it was too much pressure adjacent from just to get through that way. Something of that nature. More sides of that rock. So this is... There's so much on this rock. That's right, there's a lot going on here too. This isn't even the only system in there. All the more reason that that one wouldn't form. Because it's got another system here on the opposite side. Another system down here in some way. Unless that is that one. Was that one? That one? That might be this one. It's going around that way. That's probably that one. Connects here. So like right from where it goes up, it connects to that one. Current going this way around. Pushing up and out, that then finds a channel to another spiral. Feeds in here. Or perhaps goes up here where a spiral's going this way and it gets bent over that way to go like that, and then even maybe bent that way. That would be cool. And then maybe bent that way where it feeds into this gold material over there. It's sourced from this one, goes up through here, over that way, around, and finally pulls out there. That would be so cool. Wow, it goes this way, and then up there, and then over this way. Then there's all these, some wavering, some pretty straight. That looks like there might be some chakras in there. Something. That also looks like it could have a nucleus forming with chakras. So maybe it's more common than I realized. It's just maybe not that detectable sometimes. It's almost like there's a current going. Oh, there's some lines from that corner to up here. Lines that way. So maybe going around and then down and then running into current going up this way. Which then fills in the space between with this material. And it, like this current going this way goes this way and this way. And not so much in between. It like fragments into intervals that then the currents go between each other on larger fractal scales than just like single atoms, entire streams of atoms that become like this kind of separation. Which then, I guess, holds this boundary. Cross comes down, hits resistance, and goes across, while this goes up, hits resistance, goes across, and they etch this boundary. Maybe one goes that way. Flows up into this swirl. At this point, it can kind of go up and in. Up and in there, maybe. So maybe there's a boundary like here as well that's going out largely. Okay. There's so many images of this rock. Okay, let's go back to this one then. So, or maybe even one back. I did have that going that way. So there's that, that, and that. It's almost like perpendicular, these two, with a 45-degree between them going out this way. I'm trying to figure out which one this is. This must be the bottom face. I can't tell where that is. Let's just move on. We found some cool stuff in this rock, but... Whoa. Some currents going out of control over here. Whoa. The little shape there is pretty interesting. Abnormal, like that shouldn't be happening if it's fossilization. It's perfectly reasonable with currents, but if it's fossilization, this one I really found exciting because if we look from here this way and then here, like this angle is 90 degrees. So I was talking about how things tend to break at halves and quarters. Here we have a 90-degree angle between this side and this side where this chunk broke. So we got a quarter here, and within that quarter we have a half in this one, and between them we have a 120 degree angle, I'm thinking, or approaching it, like it basically showing some sacred geometry that's present in how these things function, where it tends to do quarters, and it tends to do halves, and it tends to do 120 degrees because of something with relationship to this simple, like, aspect of reality. Opposite side of it, I'm not sure. It looks like it had a current flow going in the side and then somehow out over like here, or maybe draining sideways over to there. I don't know. Another half, although it's a little derpy over there. This tends to be what it, like a lot of ammonites I've seen are like, more so even like straight across though. This one's probably not the best example for that, but it's still a half with that inner ring. That would have been maybe another shape itself, another not half itself, something else. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Peace out.